I'd like to bring in Joseph Bahout, Director at the Issam Fares Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs at the American University of Beirut. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today. What are your hopes that there's this possibility that this current truce which we're seeing, despite the rhetoric we're getting from the Israeli side that the fight against Hamas is set to continue, that this could potentially be the building block for something more permanent and possibly even long-lasting?
Good evening, and thanks for having me. Look, without being overly pessimistic, but I would be a bit skeptical and doubtful about the fact that this truce could be transformed into a longer-term ceasefire for many reasons. First of all, besides the rhetoric, but also because if it stops there, seen from an Israeli point of view, this would be more or less a net defeat, I would say. And for Hamas, it would be a more or less clear victory. So this, from an Israeli point of view, will not be accepted, unfortunately, because the people will continue to suffer. And I'm not sure that the next step of the war will be successful. Now, the second reason for that to be transformed into a longer-term ceasefire is to have really a relay taken by a very strong diplomatic action, at least by the US, some Arab actors, and other external partners. And so far, we're not seeing that. Additionally, I would say that the Israeli political landscape, the coalition that is governing Israel, is very divided about this question. And I think that for Netanyahu, it would be very politically risky for himself inside Israel to stop at this point. So for all these reasons, let's welcome now this 5-day truce, but let's not over-expect for the next step.
Should the strategy shift? Because I spoke to someone earlier who said Benjamin Netanyahu has bitten off more than he can chew by saying he wants to get rid of Hamas. Instead, what he should be saying is we want to bring home the hostages.
This is a de-escalation in the discourse, in the Israeli discourse that we have seen over the last month. It has started with eradication of Hamas, transforming the political landscape in Gaza, and then it became, degrading the infrastructure of Hamas and bringing the hostages home. But it has never been only bringing the hostages home. If it stops there, it will be, again, I'm repeating it, by Israeli, this actual leadership in Israel at least, it will be a net defeat and a sort of admittance that, in fact, Hamas's operation was a political success. And I frankly don't see that within the coalition that is within the government today.
But now, Joseph, I just want to jump in there because we know that Benjamin Netanyahu's position is fragile. Once this conflict ends, will he be able to remain prime minister? And if he's not able to remain prime minister, that surely changes things.
This is exactly why he has a vested interest in keeping this conflict ongoing, even though at a mid or lower level scale of intensity. And this is why, if you notice, there is this rift between him and the Biden administration that is already pressing him to look forward for a political process after this operation, something that he's unable to do because, first of all, it will mean his political end, but also it will put the ball in Israelis' camp to define what is the next step and what is the political process. So for all these reasons, I'm afraid that his best case option would be to continue violence, at least at a level that is acceptable and manageable, except, of course, if there is a change within the coalition, if, for example, General Gantz leave the coalition, or if there's a very forceful U.S. pressure on Israel, which we don't see enough yet.
And Joseph, very quickly, because we're also going to see international pressure continue to pile up. We just had Spain's Prime Minister, Belgium's Prime Minister, who were at the Rafah border crossing, basically saying way too many people have died and violence is going to breed more violence. At one point, Israel is going to have to listen to the international community.
This is the rationality. This is the rational voices. These are the voices of analysis, of cold analysis. But again, and I hope, I very sincerely hope they will be heeded and heard. And I'm really very hopeful that there will be a political process after. But again, I think the political constraints of at least the Israeli side, if we're not factoring in the other side that could have also other calculus that may be similar at some point. But if you don't have a very forceful political pressure from outside, and here only the US can play this role with Israel, I think we should remain cautious, if not pessimistic.